This is a Lamborghini Huracan and one of the best colours I've ever seen in the flesh. You can maybe tell I'm slightly excited about this one today. Now, as ever, we're going to cover all the common problems, talk about all the things that tend to go wrong. That way, if you're in the market for one of these, you know exactly what to look for. We're also going to get this out on the road for a bit of a rip, have some fun, so if you've no intentions of buying, stick around anyway. Let's go. So the Lamborghini Huracan then, it's hard to believe that we're looking at what is effectively almost a 10-year-old design. Granted, this is the Evo, so it's much newer, but no matter what Huracan you're looking at, this is going to be relevant for you. Now, these are known for being extremely robust, tough cars, but that's not to say there aren't some problems, some costly problems at that, otherwise we wouldn't have been making this video. What do we check then? Number one, nose lifts. Now, believe it or not, the nose lift was not actually standard equipment on the earlier Huracans. So what you want to check first off, if it hasn't got one fitted, is that it's not been scraped up too bad, because these are really quite low, lower even than the outgoing Gallardo. So that's the first thing to check. Second thing, the ride height sensors were known to have problems. What would happen there is the driver's raised the car, he's going along and the car's lowered unbeknownst to him. Now, that tended to happen when there was two passengers in the car, so keep that one in mind for the test drive. So talking about bad sensors, here's another one you need to be aware of. Now, these are found in the fuel tank. Let me explain it to you. So in the fuel tank, we've got two fuel float assemblies for measuring the fuel level. And the issue is, when they go bad, the bottom one is notoriously difficult to change. In fact, you need to drop the entire fuel tank out of the car to get to that. Top one, not so bad, a couple hours labour. Now, the good news is that problem tends to throw an engine management light, so if that light's on, take it very seriously. Final sensor, I promise, but again, one that I want you guys to be aware of before you make the plunge. The camshaft sensor is known for having problems, but again, good news on this, easily spotted because the car's going to be running pretty rough, and again, it's going to throw that engine management light, so don't be talked out of that being serious by some salesman looking to try and get the car into your hands. Something quite trivial, but try this before you buy the car, otherwise you're going to get stuck with a fix for it. Fuel cap, make sure that opens before you need to fill it up with fuel, otherwise you might just find yourself a bit stuck, because the pull cord, the emergency pull cord, is right here, and that leads on to a secondary problem. These tend to go brittle and snap when you try and pull them, so yeah, double check that before you get to the petrol station forecourt. Now, as we work our way around to the back here, not so much on the Evos, they're probably too new, and obviously they use this kind of Aventador SVJ-ish exhaust setup here, but certainly on the earlier Huracans, double check the exhaust tips. These are so common for coming loose. They take an absolute beating from that engine sitting right behind them, so make sure they're not too loose. They might even rattle if they're bad as well. Next up, let's talk bodywork. Now, really, it's like any other car in this department wherein we just want to have a good overall check, make sure everything's clean and tidy, no dodgy resprays or anything like that. However, there is one thing to bear in mind, and that is these Huracans and cars of this level in general, they come with these amazing colours on them. Now, the thing to bear in mind there is it's really expensive to get them repaired, and matching that paint is really difficult as well. So if you've got the opportunity to bargain with the garage you're buying the car from, get them to put any paint problems right before you collect it. Also make sure you're happy with the quality of that fix, because as I say, really hard to match and get right. Now, that leads me on to another question for you guys. This is actually quite a famous car in the YouTube world. Do you guys know who used to own it? If you do, drop it in the comments below. Here's another tip. They're also much bigger than us as a channel, so maybe you can hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification, and help us out in that department. Next up, let's talk about if you're looking at a convertible or spider configuration of this car. Now, the problem was, back in 2016, a few of them got replaced under warranty. It tended to be the hydraulics that would fail. Now, Lamborghini were hazy on the details, but they did swap parts out after 2016. So my point here is, if you're looking at a convertible one, of course, double check that top lowers and comes back up as it should. But if it's a 2016, be double, triple sure that everything is operating correctly. Next up, let's talk consumables. And again, this is something that we tend to do on the higher end cars because, quite frankly, things get really quite expensive. And if you're overlooking these consumables, then it's a bit of an issue. You could save yourself tens of thousands of pounds here. Let's get into it. So the brakes, first of all, particularly if it's carbon ceramics like we've got in this car, super expensive. Remember, they don't wear like typical steel discs. Steel discs, you tend to get that edge around the disc, and we know that they're worn. These carbon ceramics, they tend to delaminate, which means they look kind of rough in texture. If that's the case, they're getting tired. You're gonna want to bring that into the negotiation. The other thing is tires as well. Tires are really pricey on cars of this nature also. So particularly, check the inner edges as well. And again, these are great bargaining tools for you to bring into the negotiation. So a very quick note on the dampers, that is the suspension. It does use a system very similar to what we see on the R8s. However, on these, you tend not to really have any problems. Now, before we hit the road, a couple of things to check in the interior, then let's get on with it. Number one, seems a bit odd, but have a look. The rear view mirrors can tend to come loose on some of the earlier examples. Again, make sure that's not the case on the one that you're buying. If it is, get them to put it right first of all. Next up, the screen that we've got here. Two things to mention. Number one, make sure the coloration on it is okay. There has been a few of them swapped out under warranty because it takes a good 10-15 minutes to come to full colour. Again, make sure that's not the case. The other thing with this, make sure the sat-nav actually knows where you are. There's been a few of these lost their marbles and they get a bit lost and don't seem to know where they are. Again, make sure it's not the case. Final thing before we hit the road, double check that the windows both close. There has been a few instances where windows have jammed all the way down or about halfway up. Again, make sure it's not the case on the one you're buying. Right, I think we've spoke about enough. Let's hit the road now. Such a hardship at times, this. So what's up, guys? We've sacrificed the big camera once again outside to get you some nice shots. You can hear this thing in action. No further things to tell you about really, just enjoy the ride with us. You're probably not going to hear much from me, so I'll say enjoy now, but stay around, see what score we give this car at the end of the video. Holy crap. Wow. Again, a bit like the Aventador, it's not just the performance, it's the visceral noise. The whole experience is just incredible. So, the Huracan, how do we score it on a reliability leaderboard? Well, if it was a desirability leaderboard, it'd be an 11, 12 out of 10 all day long. But it isn't. As with most things on this channel, it's all about reliability. Now the thing is, the Huracan isn't just a reliable supercar, it's a reliable car, full stop. It's amazing that we get cars of this level now that are so reliable. So on that basis, we award it a massive 8.5 out of 10. Now thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.